Dad went to Goose Ridge yesterday afternoon for wine tasting.
So jealous. So jealous. I love it there. So pretty outside there.
Everyone's button should be blue to go live now.
Oh, I forgot to put my title in.
Yeah, my title still is from last week. Do you guys know how to fix that? I can't change it now.
Is that on my end or your end?
That's a great question.
I was totally gonna have a big glass of rosé. It's like a beautiful sunny day here, but I have to go to baseball after this. And I figured, I at least gotta wait till I get there to start drinking for my 3rd grade baseball team.
Dang. So I'm the only one drinking. I'm just gonna like sneak off camera to take some.
No, I have some.
Okay, good.
Oh, nice.
It actually is Goose Ridge too.
Oh, love it.
Should I click on live now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go live too. McCall, you good?
Sure. It has the wrong title, but I'm sure I can change that later.
All right, we are live.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Are we officially live?
We're live.
Hello, a quick hello, real quick before we dive in, and welcome back to our series. Every Thursday we post a new video. Be sure to check it out every week and go back to old episodes. We interview people in the industry of real estate, as well as get each other's hot takes on hot topics. So today we are Lexi, who is in Tri-Cities, Washington, one of the cousins, Catherine, one of my cousins in Charlotte, and I'm myself in Jacksonville. And we have a double header guest today. Not only is she in the real estate industry, but spoiler alert, she's also a cousin. So she is Catherine and Lexi's cousin. So she's not my direct cousin, but she's a cousin's cousin. So this is just a full, double whammy today. So all three of us have this weekly show. We have a huge reach between us, so it's fun to share different ideas and what we think about topics cross country. So Lexi, I'll give it to you.
Today we're going live with Kate Savitch. She is an interior designer, a business owner, author, mom of 3 boys, and our cousin in Kirkland, Washington. She's had such an interesting career, and it's been really fun to see all of her projects on various social media platforms, including articles. I actually picked up a magazine around here not too long ago and saw an article on something you guys did together that was featured in House. Yep. Amazon, just to name a few. Kate is a fun person, has an excellent savage sense of humor, and we're so excited. Thank you for joining us, Kate.
Thanks for having me, all the cousins. I love this.
We wanted to start out just by asking a little background on you.
Yeah, great. Well, born and raised in the Pacific Northwest, have the pleasure of extremely extended and close family. So we have family on all over the state here in Washington. And I spent a lot of time in Southern California and then made my way back home. Married my husband. We have 3 boys, ages 9 to 4. So never a dull moment. And I got into the design business kind of by accident, which is sort of the most fun way to find your passion. My husband and I were getting ready to build a house of our own. And I thought, I love this. How can I do this all the time? And so that's where it started, just with a passion. And I kind of dove in and learned hands-on and got me to where I am today.
I love that. I feel like we all have very similar stories in that sense, where we all kind of got into real estate, not really thinking that was our career path until we got a little taste of it. And we're like in love with it now.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
It's a great way to go. So let's start with a game. So
Right.
The game, if Lexi, jump in if I miss anything, because I know that you kind of came up with this whole thing, but we're going to say a word, and then Kate, you say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
That's it, right, Lexi?
Yeah, it's stolen from Jimmy Fallon.
Okay, I'll start. Popcorn ceiling.
Gross, nay, get rid of immediately. And if there's asbestos and you can't afford to remove it, put over shiplap, tongue and groove, something, hide it immediately.
So that's a big no-no. White subway tile.
Okay, if I have to install one more white subway tile, my soul might die just a little bit. But I would say it's a classic. It's never going away. If you're working on a project and it's for a resale or it's a spec home build, I would say go for it because everybody's attracted to it. It's light and bright. Please don't do dark grout though, gross. Please don't do dark grout. Do white with white grout. But maybe do an unusual size instead of the standard 3x5 or 4x6. Do a longer subway tile. Do something, install it slightly differently. So instead of standard subway, maybe do a herringbone. So yes, fine, do it if you have to, but please try to make it interesting.
Okay, gray.
Okay, so Western Washington, for those of you who've never lived here, is gray almost all year long, right? So the thing we struggle with here is natural light. So while gray is like the new beige, everyone wants gray walls, right? They want white and gray, white and gray. How can we make it interesting, but capture the natural light? So it's not just gray on gray and gray. So just slightly playing with the tint where it is gray, but maybe it has a blue undertone or a green undertone to bring that outside in is one of my biggest tips for clients. Because if it's all gray and white, it's just going to feel cold and dark.
I love that. And I feel like that's really great feedback actually for Charlotte, because Charlotte's similar in the sense that it's gray a lot of the time as well. So I love that idea of bringing in some color or changing it up a little bit. So it's not, like you said, gray on gray on gray.
Absolutely. I always ask clients, what colors do you love? What colors do you not love? And they always say, oh, we love gray. I'm like, gray is not a color. Let's bring in some light and bright.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that boat a little bit. I feel like you open up the closet doors to my wardrobe and it's like all shades of gray and black and white. That's it.
They're good base, but then how do you layer on? Like you have great accessories, obviously, by what you have on right now. So that's kind of the way you work in design too, right? Like let's make something timeless, but how do we layer it on and add some interest?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, the next one, farmhouse.
Okay, so there's true farmhouse. Like we were working on a project in Eastern Washington that was a 1903 original true farmhouse with real shiplap, with real wide plank hardwood floors. Then yes, keep it true to the era, absolutely. If you're talking about a new construction, white house with black windows, everyone will say, oh, your house was built in the early 2020s. So I feel like it's a style that's making its way out and is definitely going to feel dated eventually. But there are elements of it that I love. Like I love a farmhouse sink. I absolutely love a farmhouse sink or a traditional bridge faucet or some of the bigger pendant styles that you're seeing now versus the tiny 3 pendants, maybe 2 larger pendants over an island. Those all fit within farmhouse. But the like kind of stereotypical quote unquote modern farmhouse, I'm over.
I think that's
Speaking of sinks, you said you love a farmhouse sink. What about vessels?
No. Okay, so here's my thing. I have 3 boys. The work it takes to get any fluid into a vessel is a lot. So to add that with a vessel sink, no. I think in the right like powder bathroom setting where it's like a formal, it's a piece, like maybe it's made of onyx or maybe it's a stone or a reclaimed wood, totally cool. But a traditional vessel sink, not so much.
Okay, last one, brass accents.
Okay, I love brass. I totally love brass. I feel like it's being overdone a lot right now, where it's, again, white, gray, and brass. So I'm finding new ways to do it. Like I'm not doing it in bathroom fixtures, I would say, but I would do it definitely in light fixtures. I would definitely do it on cabinet poles or accent feet on furniture. I have a side table, just a little martini table that's brass that I really like. So I think using it as an accent pot versus a main feature will make it feel a little bit more timeless.
I love that. Awesome. So I just want to dive into one thing. So you mentioned a couple big pendants falls under farmhouse. So where does the average person learn about style? Like if I want to start learning about which style is farmhouse, which style is modern, how do I learn that?
I think in today's world, people are on the internet, right, all the time. I think the big places people are looking are on the website Houzz, Houzz is a big place. Pinterest is a big place. It's interesting. I watched one of your past videos and you guys were talking about traditional versus mid-century modern. You all gravitated towards mid-century modern, which is such a unique style, versus traditional, where to me, traditional is everything. It's, you know, turn of the century, it's Cape Cod home, it's, you know, all of these things fit under traditional. And so what I might think of as a traditional home, you or a different part of the country will think of that differently. And so as I'm working with clients and as they're learning their style, it's a lot of asking questions and it's a lot of show me, create a house board, create a Pinterest board, show me what you like, and then let me define what that means. Because I can't, someone just goes on farmhouse, well, then I'm like, okay, well, we're just going to put rustic wood everywhere. Well, that's very different than I think the Joanna Gaines farmhouse that's become so popular. So it's them doing their research of what they like, and then me diving into what does that really translate for design.
Awesome.
What are your favorite clients to work with? So we were talking about, you know, kind of a mix, right? Where they come to you with some ideas and then you dive in a little bit further and kind of point them in the right direction. But for me, sometimes I feel like the dream client is somebody who knows exactly what they want. But for you, is it the opposite?
I think it depends on the personality of the client. Is that fair to say? Because I think sometimes a client thinks that they know everything that they want. And so they're saying yes to this, no to this. But then I show them something and they're like, oh, well, I hadn't even thought about that. And so I think if they're open to, I like to say that I nudge them a little bit, push them a little bit out of their comfort zone. If they're open to that, then 100%, I'd rather them have maybe what they think that they want, and then we move from there. Sometimes it's almost easier if they know what they don't like, because if they say absolutely no gold in the house or absolutely no leather, I have a client who doesn't like leather, then that can really narrow things down for me. Sometimes that's almost easier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On a tangent, I forget who I was talking. I think this is a common problem. If I go to Target one day and I'm feeling rich and I'm like, I would love to just redo the style of my living room. And I get there and there's so much to choose from. I come home with like a candle and, you know, a throw pillow.
Right.
And of course, it doesn't have the same effect, but I think that's one reason why people hire somebody like you, because you take those little things that people are attracted to and can kind of from that create the big picture. And I think it helps to have somebody nudge you with, especially the big purchases, because it's like, well, if I'm going to spend thousands of dollars on a new couch, first, because, you know, with all these boys like me too, like there's certain materials that we can't use.
Right.
And
white, no, white sofas. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's a reason a lot of people come to a designer. I do a lot of full gut remodels of homes or new construction. So we're starting with, you know, from square one, and that can be overwhelming, just as overwhelming as it is to go into Target and think about, oh, there's this style and this style, and I like this, I like that. And so that's really a good designer's job, is to curate that for you. It's, let me see what you like, and then how does that fit to a cohesive plan for your home?
So you mentioned new construction. What's your dream project?
My preference is always renovation versus new construction, which shocks people sometimes, but I feel like every house has a style and a story. of a certain era. I'm not talking like a 1980s or 90s remodel, but a classic home. Like I had this fantastic project on Volunteer Park in Seattle. And if you know that area at all, it's the old traditional homes where the elite of Seattle lived when, during the time when there was a gold rush. And so it's these very manor style homes that have, the lots have been downsized since then and converted, or there'll be like a gorgeous house with a horrible 60s kitchen. And so that's kind of my passion project, is restoration more, I would say, where you have this gorgeous shell, maybe some amazing original millwork, but we need to bring it into the 21st century. And how do we do that to stay true to the home, but think about modern technology? Where are they going to store their iPads? How are they going to fit a 48-inch range, that sort of thing, within the confines of, a late 1800s home? So that's really, I love working with older homes in that way.
So I think, I don't want to get too far off script, but I heard that you just started your new business.
Yeah.
So can you kind of dive into that a little bit and kind of tell people what you're up to and why you decided to get into this business in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been working with a partner for the last 7 years. We have a very successful design firm in Kirkland, and it was fantastic. But it got to the point where I was feeling that the client service wasn't there. We were growing so fast. We were getting so busy. We were taking on so much. We weren't saying no. And I really wanted to get back to the time that a client deserves, that personal feel, that connection you have. I mean, if you're doing a major remodel, you're part of their life for over a year. And so I was really missing that. That personal connection was gone. And so I decided the timing was right. Timing's never right, but this was the time to launch my own design firm. So I have a little bit more control over what I say yes to and what I say no to, and really dive into what the client really wants and add a little bit more of a personal touch. So I'm really excited. You guys, this timing was crazy. I've been open a week and already have multiple clients that I've been bidding projects, and it's just really exciting. And it's exciting to hear the reaction from past clients who say, okay, that makes a lot of sense. The firm that I work for is fantastic. They'll be around for a long time. But I didn't want to grow at that pace where you lose kind of that personal interaction.
Yeah. And I think that experience, that one-on-one experience, is so important, especially from the other end of this, someone welcoming you into their home. It's very personal, and to have someone that they can kind of form a relationship with and have kind of more of a personal touch, I think is really important. So I love what you're doing. And I love the idea of, kind of keeping it small,
Thank you.
Huge congratulations for opening a business after 2020. How do you feel that people being home more is affecting your business? Do you think people are re-envisioning their spaces and needing you more than ever?
Absolutely. It was quiet there for a couple months when things first shut down. We were a little nervous about what was going to happen. But then all of a sudden, we're lucky. We live in a business that's high tech industry. People can work from anywhere. And so we didn't have the financial impact that a lot of the other parts of the country felt. And so people are stuck at home and they're like, oh gosh, we have these kids trying to do school. We have parents trying to work. This open floor plan that I thought was so fantastic isn't so fantastic anymore. And so what can we do? Or this kitchen that we are dealing with, because we were only home at dinner, now it's 3 meals a day, every day of the week, we need a better kitchen. And so it's had a huge impact. And also in the area where we live, there's not a lot of real estate that's affordable. People who bought their house, 5 or 7 years ago can't afford to move now. And so it's just up to stay in the same school district and stay in the same area. And so it's about renovating so they can make the house more functional, but they can stay in their neighborhoods.
Are you adding a lot of exterior elements? I know the weather is a big play there. Are you adding she sheds and Zoom rooms, things like that?
Not so much separate from the house. There's a lot of, we work with some fantastic landscape architects. So there's a lot of more indoor outdoor living space that we've been working on, but definitely a lot of like this spare bedroom that we haven't used for anything but storing wrapping paper now needs to be a functional office, things like that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Is it my turn? So I kind of want to talk a little bit about the mom and boss babe sort of relationship and how you deal with that. I know that the pandemic is hopefully on the fritz and kids are back in school, but
Yes.
it's still it's a tough. Do you have any advice for working moms out there?
Lots of red wine. That's where I start. And, it is all just a balance. Like I literally have a spreadsheet for the school schedule because each of my children are at school at a different day. My youngest is a different time. And so I try to just be as organized as possible because each minute counts for so much of what I need to get done. And so if I can front load and spend a little bit more time organizing, whether it's something as simple as meal planning for the week, so I just don't have to think about it. Like sports are back in session and we've got baseball almost every night and all of the running around with balancing school and kids. And oh, by the way, I have clients and work and phone calls. Anything I can do to front load the organization, whether it's for the week or the month, is super helpful. And that's in my business too. If I can do all of my social media scheduling, spend an hour, 2 hours, one day, and get it all done for the month, then it's off my plate. I don't have to think about it, search for photos, search for something to comment on. So for me, it's just about as organized as I can possibly be. Now, does that mean dishes don't get done and laundry doesn't get done? 100%. But it's kind of picking your battles in today's world.
Definitely. I think one of the things that runs in our family on both sides is that we're almost more productive the more like overwhelmed we are. Like
Totally.
I know that if I plan my schedule out like completely, I block out time for everything, I end up getting everything done. And yet when I have a big long list of things to do and I don't like organize it and schedule it, then nothing gets done.
Yep.
So I love
Absolutely.
that you're so organized.
Yeah. And you have to give yourself a little grace too. You can't plan for everything, but anything I can do to just save myself time later on benefits everybody.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So shifting gears just a little bit, what is a project that you've done that has made you the most proud, or something that like the biggest project that you've done, the biggest challenge even?
Yeah. So I think the two really cool projects that are actually continuing on right now as I'm making this transition, it's the same clients and they both bought, and Lexi was actually helping me find some trades for this, but they bought huge acreage in the Pomeroy area, which is just outside of Walla Walla, Washington. And the first place was an original farmhouse. And that's going to be their guest house for when family comes to visit. They're retirees now, but they have 5 kids. And then their other piece of land is right on the Snake River, and it's going to be a custom, super contemporary. When I say contemporary, I don't mean a box, but I mean it's going to feel more modern, clean lines than a farmhouse, with lots of stone finishes, metal, that sort of thing. And we're doing them simultaneously, which is so fun because they're 2 different styles, but they're the same clients, and they're so different. And so the farmhouse is challenging because we want to use reclaimed pieces for like a vanity. Let's say we don't want to have a vanity that a cabinet shop builds. We want to find a really cool old dresser and turn that into a vanity, but we want it to be specific to that area if possible. So we've been doing a lot of antique shopping over there, which is really fun. Where the modern house, we're starting from scratch and it's basically their dream. And so they keep adding like, oh, now we want an outdoor shower. Now we want a boathouse. Now we want this. Now we want that. And it's so challenging because it's out in the middle of nowhere and the sky is the limit. So and the landscape, as you guys know over there, can be really challenging too, with the wind and the grade and that sort of thing. So it's been a lot of like Googling when the engineer tells me something and I go, oh yes. And then I Google, I'm like, oh, that's what that means because it's totally new. But then doing that at the same time with the farmhouse, which is such a unique project, it's just been so much fun and so challenging.
Thank you for being transparent and with someone with your accolades telling us that you still Google things. That makes me feel so good.
100%. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. There's so many. Also, depending on your client and where they're from in the world or in the country, they use different words for the same thing. And so I might think we're talking about something, and then they say something, and then I'm like, I'm just going to make a note of that to make sure we're talking about the same thing later on down the road. But every day I'm learning something new. Every day I'm learning something from a new tradesperson, a new client, a new retailer. I think if I wasn't learning and expanding, it would be boring. But I'm sure you guys have deals that are tricky, and you're like, okay, we haven't done it like this before, so let's figure it out. And that's kind of, I feel like, the joy in it. If it was stagnant, I don't think I would do it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes
I love that project. I cannot wait to follow you on social media and see the end results of the dueling homes.
I know. I was
Sorry,
telling
Catherine,
Kate when she comes out here next for those projects, or maybe the revealing, it would be fun. You have to tell me so I can go see.
Yes, for sure. I would love that. I know it'll be really exciting. I think the farmhouse we're trying to get done by late fall, and then the new house would probably be spring next year. It'll depend on the weather.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned you kind of stumbled into design. Do you think it's something people are born with or not?
I think it's both. I think that I always, from very young, could look at something and say, that makes sense or that doesn't make sense from either a scale perspective or a color palette. But then there's so much I had to learn, especially on the construction side of things. The Savitch cousins obviously have the construction background as well. And so it's such a learning process. Even going to the Seattle Design Center, which is one of my favorite places on earth to go, it's a whole different language. And so that was a lot of figuring it out, learning. But then I feel like some of the innate, just like, nope, that works, that doesn't work, I just have always had.
Kate, we're all realtors here, and we, do you have any advice when you're working on projects sometimes? Do the realtors get more in the way than contribute to the situation? Or do you have any advice for realtors in general?
I feel like I don't usually work with realtors in general, because I'm usually working with people who are going to be in their homes for 10 plus years. If, however, it's a new project, I've had clients call me and say, hey, we're looking at these 3 homes and we're going with our realtor and we're trying to decide between these 3 homes. In that way, I feel like if you're a good realtor, you know when to talk and you know when to get out of the way. And I feel uncomfortable if a realtor is pushing a client and you can tell that they're uncomfortable. So for example, we had this house and the realtor's like, oh, well, you can just take out this wall and open this up and whatever. And I'm like, well, that's a load bearing wall. So you'd have to add a beam. And so then you need engineering, and it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars in addition to the cost of the gut remodel of the kitchen. And so I think if you are knowledgeable about something, share the information. But if you're not sure or you don't know, then have somebody else make those determinations.
Is that something, a service that you provide, or you think maybe other designers provide? Like if I'm showing some clients some older homes and their intention is to be a fixer-upper, would you, do you charge, and then I could have you come to these 2 showings and you could just give them your professional advice? Is that, I never even thought about that, but it's a great idea.
Yep. Absolutely. And I usually, depending on the number of houses we're going to see and the locations, it's either a flat fee or an hourly fee, just kind of depending on the scope. And I would absolutely do that. I've done it lots of times. Afterwards, I give a detailed breakdown of, I'm not a contractor, so I can't say specifically, but in general, this house is going to be more because I see these problems or these changes you're going to want to make. This house, I think, makes sense because here are the different reasons. This is a time where, like I said before, there's not a ton of real estate and people don't really have, at least in this area, don't really have time to shop and make decisions. It's kind of like, oh, you've seen it once, get your bid in as soon as you can. And so it hasn't happened as often as it did maybe in a different market where people had a little bit more time. But yes, absolutely. If people are deciding between two things, I'm happy to help. And if it's something I can do remotely for any of you, if with, listing photos, or if I'm on a Zoom call with you or a FaceTime call to do a walkthrough, I'm happy to do that as well.
As a follow-up question, I guess, is we do a lot of new construction in Tri-Cities. And every builder usually lets the clients do all those color selection meetings. Would you or other people in your field, is it kind of the same thing where we could hire you to come with to help these people, or maybe meet with them beforehand with some sort of design in mind? Because sometimes we find that we get to these huge showrooms and it's like,
So
it's too overwhelming. Yeah. And people, again, like my candle example, they know they like one tile, they love it, but to coordinate a whole house around one or two little things is really difficult for people.
And
I do that all the time.
And it's an awkward situation when they make a bunch of selections and then it's installed and it's not at all what they envisioned.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I do that all the time. I just helped with a project in Bend, Oregon, a new construction. Same thing where I got the floor plan in advance, talked to the client. Sometimes they're also limited a bit in style because maybe the contractor has plan A, plan B, plan C as far as the finishes level. And so we talked through what their goals were, what they wanted to achieve. And then for each space, I put together just basically a mood board, a concept. Like I think maybe we'll want to do marble in here, quartz in here, bring in pops of blue in this room, maybe add a little bit of coral in this room. And so then when we went to the showroom, I'm like, okay, well, this is what I was thinking. Do you have this something similar, but in, a 24 by 24, like a big size tile? Or this is what I had in mind. Can we maybe find something close, but maybe a little different size? So once we have that plan of action, it just really, not only does it make those meetings quicker, which can take, as you know, forever, it's a lot less overwhelming for the clients because they've already had time to kind of digest the plan before we go into those showrooms.
Well, here's the other thing is that a lot of times,
you just have such a warmth and confidence about you. I would definitely want you on my team to, yes, please, Kate, take the lead. I trust you. We already did, the details back at my house. And then now that we're in this overwhelming situation, I'm with her.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the goal though. It's so stressful. And if you don't know what to ask for, if you don't know the language, you're like, oh, I'm a little gray. What does that mean? That could be a million different things. So it's just making sure that the clients have a plan always. That's my goal. Whether I'm handing it off to a contractor, whether it's at a design center, whether it's the clients themselves, because they, bless them, think they can do it themselves, at least they have a plan.
Yeah, I was going to follow up and say that in addition to picking out all the selections, when people move into their brand new house, they have all this old furniture and it's like, well, now what? How do I rearrange this furniture to make it work in my new home? And a lot of times, like when my husband and I moved into this house, this was one of my dad's homes, we still had a futon that was handed down in college, and like the raggy couch that my husband bought that was gross. And we put all the furniture in our house and we're like, oh, this is terrible. The furniture's ruining the house.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And I think you have to be open to saying the futon's got to go. And then you also have to talk realistic about budget, because a lot of people are house poor. And so they get in and it is kind of, they can't afford to spend the money on furniture right away. And so it's just kind of taking that all into consideration. But if you have grandma's armchairs that you want to keep that are a little raggedy, well, maybe let's reupholster, but then add new sofas. And so I love to work with clients to see what makes sense for their new home. Sometimes keeping what they had, maybe reimagining what they had. But a lot of times clients just want all new if they're in a new house as well. And so, of course, we can work with that. But yeah, it's just finding that balance for the client.
Before we wrap up, I think one thing that would be really helpful for us realtors is to kind of know what you recommend when you're about to list a house and they have just stuff everywhere. Like, what is your best advice?
Pull a dumpster out front and just start tossing things in, and then the house will be ready to go on the market. No. Declutter. I am a big fan of, I love a knickknack, I love a candle, I love a thing on my shelf, but that's my house and how I live. When it's time to put the house on the market, I mean, you girls are women are expert in that. Get rid of all the family photos, the kids' trophies, sometimes people have plants, like too many plants. Like, where are we living? Is this the jungle? No. So just get rid of as much as you can, because it helps the potential buyer envision themselves in this space and what they can bring in of their own versus what's already being kind of shoved down their throat if there's a lot of stuff. Plus, honestly, you can't really see a space when it's cluttered. It feels smaller, it feels darker. So I just would say streamline as much as possible.
That's great advice.
Love that. Well, we're rounding out well over the 30 minutes that we planned. We always do this. So to end the show, let's go around and say one thing that we can't let go of this week. So it could be business related, current events, celebrity, gossip, anything. So Lexi, let's hear yours.
I've been obsessed with the tanker ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal.
Me too.
I don't know why. I was just like looking at the news 3 times a day. Is it unstuck? And then to see just like one bulldozer slowly like scooping, and it was holding up like billions of dollars worth of trade. It was like,
I know,
like 10 gallons at a time. The little engine that could.
But I will say the TikToks that came out of that were glorious. Have you guys seen those?
So funny.
They're good. McCall, how about you?
So this is embarrassing, but I'm a 90 Day Fiance fan, which is a cult show on TLC. It's where people meet their significant others from a different country, whether they meet online or they met on vacation in Barbados or whatever, however they met. The person from outside of America is coming here on a K-1 visa. So they have 90 days to get married. And this season was COVID. Like it was last year filmed. And so Sunday's episode was all the weddings. And so just the internet comments and the memes and all that is just, it's just priceless. I mean, my husband and I got sucked in about 3 years ago and we're on, I don't know, season 10. And it's just our Sunday night. It's very embarrassing.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Mine is not funny at all. I don't know why I didn't go on the funny side of this, but I just can't let go of the fact that vaccines are starting to become available to like the general population. So I got my first vaccine and I'm going to get my next one, I think, next weekend, the 10th. So I'm super pumped about that and just excited for things to start opening back up again. And I'm getting married this summer. And so we're like, yay, I think it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
How about you, Kate? Anything you can't let go of this week?
Well, you guys took 2 of mine. Mine was also the little engine that could digging out the big tanker. Mine was also vaccines. I also got my first vaccine. So that was exciting.
It's the Savitch.
I know. So then I'm going to go with a McCall reality TV thing. I'm a big Housewife fan and I watched the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and one of the main characters just got indicted by the FBI, arrested this week, Jen Shaw. And I'm like, what is going on for like this Ponzi scheme? I mean, it's amazing. Oh. I can tell McCall.
Oh, girl, I'm in that super deep. So I was recently in Park City and I saw them all filming and I was like, oh my gosh, you would think, you know, who's the biggest celebrity? You would think Brad Pitt was there. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Meredith. She was in her little store. Oh, but so Jen Shaw was running like a telemarketing scheme for the elderly.
Yes.
And she's on reality TV and she thought no one would find out.
What an idiot. Her first assistant.
Oh, and her chalet is rented, and she makes everyone think this big, speaking of homes, this big, beautiful home, she makes everyone think it's hers, but apparently it's rented.
I saw that scandal. I love it. I love it.
I feel like a lot of those like home TV shows are rentals like that. They were saying that what's that show? This Selling Sunset. They were saying that they were I saw a TikTok and this girl was like, that's my house that they were shooting in and it hasn't been on the market for 10 years or something.
Yep, absolutely. That happens a lot, I think.
Yeah, I've heard that like on House Hunters, the home has already been purchased and lived in for like years. And then that was the one they finally choose. And then the other two were like friends' homes. So it makes for good TV, I suppose.
Yes.
Before we end, I was going to remind you of that. Remember that show Trading Spaces?
Yeah.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, they put hay on the wall one time.
I know.
Hay on the wall?
Yeah.
Like the circus tent living room.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, I would not do one of those
We
shows.
digress.
Oh, man.
Well, we know you have to head out to baseball tonight, but it was been such a pleasure. Learning a little bit about you. We cannot wait to follow your business, your blooming, blossoming business. So excited for you.
Thank
And
you.
maybe we'll have you on in a year and see where the business has taken you. How about that?
Yeah.
I would love that. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks,
Alrighty.
Kate. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.